Welcome. My name is Caroline Sorokoff, and I'm the director of the Gold Coast International Film Festival. We are thrilled to have you here today to join us for our conversation with Carl Hunter, the director of the new independent film, Sometimes Always Never, starring Bill Nighy. Carl Hunter is a very talented individual, as you will learn from our conversation with him. He, in addition to being a filmmaker and a screenwriter, he is also a musician. You may have seen him on one of his world tours as the bassist with the Liverpool-based pop group The Farm. He's also an artist. He completed a master's degree in multimedia design and production and worked as a designer and art director, which I think after seeing the film, you can completely understand how he's been able to fuse his background in art and filmmaking so seamlessly. He has also produced and directed over 30 broadcast documentaries and several short films and pop promos. So this is a man of many talents, and we are very happy to share with you our conversation with Carl Hunter. Okay, so this is Caroline Sorokoff, the director of the Gold Coast International Film Festival, and we are thrilled today to have joining us all the way from England, director Carl Hunter, the director of the new film, Sometimes Always Never. Welcome, Carl.
Oh, good afternoon or good morning in your case.
Where in England are you right now?
I'm in a place called Liverpool, which you might know for either if you're a soccer fan or if you're a fan of pop music from the 60s. There were four young men who made a dent in popular music, who you may have heard of.
Just a small dent.
Yes, a small dent.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. As I mentioned briefly when we were talking before, I loved Sometimes Always Never, the film. I'm excited for our audience to see it, and it really did spur a lot of questions for me that I'm really glad that we have the opportunity to ask you about. So one of the things that I had been reading about you and about the film is your collaboration with the writer, Frank Cottrell-Boyce. And I know that you've worked with him a lot in the past. So can you talk a little bit about your relationship and what you've done together and how you started working together on this project?
Well, we've been friends for a long time. And he's a neighbour as well. He lives about a 15-minute walk away. So we're all friends and neighbours. Frank and I share a lot of very similar interests in theatre and film and in art and in music. So we have a lot to talk about. We also have an interest in walking, and we're just close friends. And Frank and I have worked in many, many kind of capacities, really. Other than being a director, and I've directed a lot of Frank's scripts, either for short films or features. But also I've collaborated with Frank on a number of things. For instance, I've written songs and music for a radio play he did. I've illustrated a story he wrote. I've been a photographer for a book which won the biggest book prize in Europe for Frank. So I've kind of worked with him in a much more of a multimedia way: musician, photographer, designer, filmmaker. And that's what I like about working with Frank, is Frank sees the world in quite globally and very, very artistically. So he doesn't kind of put you in a compartment where, oh, I'm a writer, you're a director. He doesn't think like that. He thinks this is it's like creating a song and you need a really good band. A bit like those four lads that came over to America in 1964. I made a dent. So it's kind of, Frank sees it almost like a band. He kind of likes to work with people to make music, if that doesn't sound too corny. So yeah, we work well together, and he's great fun to work with. He's very, very polite, very talented.
You know, it's interesting when you talk about your background. When I watched the film, I didn't know a tremendous amount about you. I knew you were the bassist in The Farm, but I didn't know about your art background. But when I watched the film, I immediately said, this director, he must be a photographer or an artist, because the film has such a unique and beautiful look to it. It's very retro. It actually is making me think a little bit about Wes Anderson films and kind of in the way in that look. But can you talk a little bit about how you and why you came up with this specific look and design for this film?
Yeah, well, initially, I kind of there was a, I wouldn't call it a problem, but it kind of was a problem from an art point of view. I was interested in addressing, um, and I do come from a very kind of arts background. I'm an art school graduate. In fact, my qualifications, I'm actually a designer. I'm a graphic designer. So my BA and my MA are in design, and I worked for years as a designer. So I'm used to photography, I'm used to typography, I'm used to layout, composition. So my background is very much a design background, and a lot of the films I make have a very strong kind of visual look. But that's partly down to the fact that I enjoyed the language of visuals, and film is a very visual language. So when Frank has written Sometimes, Always, Never, there was a slight problem, but a very good one, in that how do you take a film which is very, very, very British, in that its writer, director, composers are all British, it's shot in Britain. So how do you take a film which is very, very British, but make it feel like it's from another place?
Right.
Which interests me a lot in the world of art and in film. So can I shoot a film which is very British, but make it feel otherworldly? So that was the first problem, and at the time, I'd been watching a lot of films by Aki Kaurismäki, who was a Finnish director, who I'm a huge, huge fan of. And also been looking at a lot of photography by a brilliant American photographer called Gregory Crewdson. And also I've been looking at a lot of Hopper artwork as well. So it's kind of a little bit of a nod towards America, and a kind of nod towards European, Finnish film as well. So they're all the things I was interested in at the time. So I thought, well, why not make a film which is unmistakably British, but it feels like it's of another place? In fact, ironically, the statues that appear on the beach in the film, that actual art project is called Another Place.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's
which, by the way, at the time I wasn't thinking that. It's just in hindsight, I thought, that's exactly what I was doing. Because if you look at a coast, I live very close to the coast which the film's filmed on, as does Frank. And I'm always fascinated that when you stand on the coast and you look out, especially somewhere like Liverpool, which is a port. And the interesting thing about ports are, historically, a port is somewhere where information arrives, gets messed up, changed, becomes a hybrid, and then it goes back again. In fact, in a way, Liverpool or any port was the first internet. In fact, the word port and portal.
Right. Yeah. No, it's all linked.
Yeah. So in a way, I've always been interested that ports are places where information comes in and goes out. It's like living in a real Google. So I stand on the coast a lot, and I often think, can you imagine the people that have left here to take their influences and their art and their politics and philosophy somewhere else, and then all that art, politics and philosophy that's arrived in Liverpool? So the coast is really important to me. So when we started making Sometimes, Always, Never, that was very much what I was thinking of. Like, why should British films look like British films? Because my influences are from that coast. They're international. They're not necessarily British. They're international. So the look of the film really is me kind of saying, well, I kind of look at the world, not just where I live. And if I make films where I live, then the influences have to reflect a bigger thing, a bigger place. So that's kind of what I was trying to do.
I think you did a great job with it. And additionally, not only different place, there was a point like early on in the film when I was watching it and I went, wait, when does this take place? Like, is it now or is it 10, 20 years ago? And you don't 100% know. Also, I think because of some of the choices that you made in the design of the film, and I assume that was intentional as well, as trying, not to pin it to an exact time period, although it's in modern day, but it's not, so was that a deliberate thing as you were going through it as well, like that you were thinking about?
Yeah, absolutely. The look of the film is a bit confusing, but for very good reason. In that, when you look at the film, you feel like you're in the past,
Right.
but you're not. You're in the present, and the reason is the film's basically one great big metaphor. Because the thing about Alan and Peter and the family is when the older son went missing, what that means is the debris of that situation means that the family has been trapped in grief.
Right.
So in a way, what the film is reflecting or trying to reflect is how the family are trapped in the past through grief.
Right.
So that's why the film feels like time has stood still at
Yeah.
some point for that family. And again, that's deliberate because time did stand still for them.
For them. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
that really makes sense. And that was something that I felt, but couldn't articulate in that way until after I looked back on the film. But you really do feel it as you're watching the film and experiencing it.
That's good.
Yeah, no, so you definitely achieved that. Another thing I thought was interesting was the scenes when they were in that car, which that car is amazing. First of all,
yeah.
What a great car. But those scenes when Alan and Peter are in the car, they don't seem real. Like it's not realistic in from a shooting perspective. And how did you achieve that? And how did you come up with that idea to make that give that feel to their car rides together?
Well, traditionally, when you shoot a car scene, there's a few ways to do it. But traditionally, what you would do is either shoot it against a green screen, which would look real,
right,
or put the car on what's called a low loader, which is basically a truck. So the car is never actually on the road; it's on a truck. So when the truck drives through seaside or scenery or motorways, then it looks like the car is on the road,
right,
and that's real. But the thing is, I didn't want it to look real. I wanted it to deliberately look like it can't be real.
Yeah.
In the car scenes, anyway. So I used an old way of shooting car scenes, which is called back projection. So if you look at old Hitchcock films, or in my case, episodes of The Saint, which I was a huge fan of. So kind of 1960s British and American films or TV series would use back projection. So, but I wanted the audience to see when they were in a car, when Alan and Peter are in the car, that this obviously isn't real.
Right.
It's fake. And again, that was really about the characters, about what they're feeling, because what they're not doing is talking properly about the situation.
Right.
So everything's false, everything's pretend. Instead of going, look, there's a problem here.
Right, let's just talk about it. Right.
Yeah. But they don't. Everything is, the film really, the dialogue, which is wonderful, but the dialogue is the film is littered with subtext, brilliant subtext, because whatever Peter says or Alan says, that's not what they're saying. They mean something else. So the back projection really was kind of me trying to reinforce, look, these two people aren't speaking not so much the truth, but they're not talking properly. And the car journey kind of represents that. But I tell you what, it was so difficult to shoot. With hindsight, what I should have done was shot on green screen. And then made it look like back projection.
Right, look like it was, yeah.
It was so hard to do. Back projection was so expensive, really expensive.
Right. It looked amazing though. It looks beautiful. It really does. Like that's what it is. There's like all these beautiful moments in the film, and when you say that there's all this subtext, as you're watching it, obviously, Scrabble obviously is almost like a character in the play, but you find yourself looking at the words and they're chosen and who's using them and what subtext all of those words meant. And so but one thing I just kept thinking about was trying to figure out was the word that Michael had left on, when they had years ago, which was Zoe, I believe, Zio.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there, was it always going to be that word? Like, was that in the original script? Like, what word? Do you know why that word was chosen? Like, I kept thinking, is it because it has a Z and there was like the discussion of the Z's, or, but was there a specific reason why that word was chosen as the one that was the last word with him?
Well, I'm not sure there's a specific reason, but there's kind of a backstory to that word. I spent a weekend researching the film. I spent a weekend shooting a kind of micro documentary with the National Scrabble Association. They had a competition in a place called Durham, which is the northeast of England. If you know Scotland, if you know the Newcastle,
Yeah.
Durham's kind of around that area, and I shot a short film there, a little micro documentary, and interviewed champion Scrabble players,
Right.
which was a real eye opener. I naively always assumed that to be good at Scrabble, you have to be a great speller and you have to be brilliant with words. Actually, Scrabble is a game of maths. It's not a game of, it's not a linguistic game. It's a mathematical game, which really threw me when I worked it out, because the people that play Scrabble, the champion Scrabble players, their jobs tend to be mathematicians or IT. They're all computers. Yeah, they work in computers, IT, mathematics. They're all physics. They're all people for whom numbers are like cultural capital to them. So it's a game of numbers, bizarrely, which is really weird to think of. But I interviewed a champion Scrabble player, and when she was younger, her dad was an army officer, and she grew up on bases, and her dad used to go around the bases of a night playing Scrabble. And then one night he came home, they played a game of Scrabble, and his young daughter played Zoe. And he said there's no such word.
Right.
And she said there is. It caused an argument, and he kicked the table over. So I was quite shocked by that story. But anyway, the next day, he then started taking his daughter around the army bases in Britain, and pimping it, for want of a better word. But basically, like Paul Newman, The Hustler.
Right. Well, so that, is that all the inspiration for that scene of like the Scrabble battle in the hotel? Because that's exactly what I was thinking when I was watching that. And I was thinking of Paul Newman, and thinking, I don't know, I've never seen anyone hustle with Scrabble, and how interesting that was. But so did that whole scene come from that story that you're telling about the army base and the girl? Like, is that the inspiration for that?
Yeah, well, that story really formed the basis of that scene. But that scene is completely inspired by Paul Newman in The Hustler. To completely, we watched. In fact, if you look at the way it's shot, it should look a little bit like a saloon.
Right.
Composition and layout. It should feel like a little bit like it's from a cowboy film. Yeah. Kind of. Sort of, anyway. But yeah, The Hustler was a big inspiration for that scene. Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. Did you play Scrabble on the set, or while you guys, were you living that while you were shooting the film?
No, that gets asked quite a lot. No, we never played Scrabble once when we were shooting, and that's partly down to the days were so intense filming that there was no gap in the day where you could, even like during, like, say, dinner hour, for instance. My dinner hour was cut massively short because there's always a crisis to deal with when you're making a film. So you start work on your bowl of soup, and then before you're halfway through it, someone's going, scene 25, we can't shoot it, there's a problem with whatever, and then you end up going to resolve it. So no, there was never a point. But when they play Scrabble in that scene, you couldn't play that game. That game is pretty much impossible to play. We didn't add any letters to the bag, so you could play that game, but the odds on pulling out those letters in that order to
Yeah,
form.
Yeah.
That's just like it'd be billions to one. But there was a really difficult scene to shoot because when we did that originally, there was a continuity issue. So, for instance, I just thought, well, we could shoot it and then, cut, reset the board, film, cut, reset the board. But it doesn't work like that. It was very difficult. And in fact, when you look at that scene, have you noticed that there's three people sat around the table and Bill is in the middle of the frame? Directly opposite Bill, there's the back of a chair and it's about that high.
Okay.
It's that much higher than the table. And the reason the chair's there and the camera's low is because there's no Scrabble board on the table. They never played Scrabble. And the top of the chair disguises the fact that there's no Scrabble board there.
Oh, that there's no board there. Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah, because we couldn't play the game. It was too difficult. And to reset it in terms of continuity was so complicated. The only way to do it was never see the game. And then months later.
At the same time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so, now I have to go back and watch that. That's so interesting.
You never see the board. You never see them play.
Right. I never thought about that. Wow. Was Scrabble always going to be the game that was the focus of the film?
Yeah, it was always going to be about Scrabble. Originally, it was based on a short story Frank had written called Triple Word Score. That was about 9 years ago.
Right. Okay.
So it was always going to be about Scrabble. It's an interesting. There's been lots of films where board games have been made into movies, whether it's Jumanji or Cluedo or whatever. And it's only recently dawned on me, we've turned Scrabble, a board game, into a film, which kind of is a bit odd to think about. But it's interesting because what really interested me was when you start to play a game of Scrabble, you have a bag, and in the bag are a load of tiles. And when you put your hand in the bag, you randomly pull out a set of tiles, which don't make any sense. So when you play Scrabble, what you're dealing with is initially chaos. And what you do with that chaos is you create order. So you take the letters, which are random, and then you rearrange them in some kind of order to make sense. So as a metaphor, it's a brilliant metaphor for life. You take a situation which is chaos, but psychologically, as human beings, we always need to create order. So that's kind of what Scrabble is. You start with chaos, and then you cleverly create order. And that's what the film's about. The film starts with a family who are in meltdown, in chaos.
Yeah.
And then the job of the family, well, Bill Nighy really, his job is to go, I need to make order. This needs to make some kind of sense. So in a way, the life of the characters in that film is a mirror of a game of Scrabble.
Of the game, yeah.
So that's kind of what we were trying to do.
Yeah, and I definitely picked up on throughout the film, a lot of the images that you had were reflecting a Scrabble board and Scrabble tiles, and there are a lot of squares of things throughout the film, which I thought really added to that whole feeling of trying to create order, because when you see the squares, you automatically think order when it's lined up, and so I think that really added to the feeling as you were going through the film. So I picked up on that. I liked it.
Good. I write down the notebook. We got it right.
Right. So speaking of Bill Nighy and the casting, I mean, I've always been a fan of Bill Nighy's work, but it's almost like this part was written for him. I mean, he was perfect in it. And while you've had a really distinguished career, this was your first feature film job, directing a feature film. How did you get Bill involved in the project? How was it working with him and someone of his reputation on the project?
Well, working with Bill is better than you could ever imagine. However good you think it's going to be, 10 out of 10. He's incredibly kind. He's very patient. He's helpful beyond belief. He's very talented. He's a brilliant actor. He's great on set around people. He's just a joy to work with.
Oh,
he's
that's great.
also one of the best actors in the world. And you realise why when you work with him. You absolutely get. He's a genius. But the way we got him was a bit of a strange story in that when the script was in development, the producers of the film, Roy and Sol, asked me a question. They said, "Who would you like to play Alan in the film?
Okay.
If you had a wish, and you could wish for anyone in the world, who would it be?" Well, I thought, well, if it's a wish, then Bill Nighy. It's a wish. I'll just say Bill.
Yeah.
I didn't think at that moment in time. I never ever thought when I said Bill that a year later I'd be making a movie with him. I never thought that. In fact, I was so shocked. But Bill read the script, loved it, and then said, "Can we meet?" In fact, there's a lovely interview with him in this week's New Yorker.
Oh, great! No, not yet. I will definitely check it out.
Bill talks about the first meeting we had, the first time I met him. I can quote the New Yorker, well, more or less. Bill said when he met me for the first time and the producer, he said he was impressed by our discreet. He was talking about our clothes and what we wear, and he said he was impressed by our discreet, modernist clothing and brands. For which he's referring to clothes like this, I presume. So we met Bill for the first time, and he was brilliant. He was just, in fact, he was fantastic. But what he really wanted to know was, what's the film going to look like? In fact, I can probably show you something here. This is a scrapbook I kept from pre-production to post-production. It's got all my notes and images in it. So Bill very sensibly asked, well, what will the film look like? And at that moment in time, I had in my pocket, just grab these for a second. I had a collection of kind of photographs and. Can you see that? You see that?
Yeah.
So I had a collection of photographs and Polaroids. And I said to Bill, "Can I just show you something? I go walking a lot, and I take photographs every day of the week without fail. I'm a big fan of photography. Can I just show you photographs I take?" So I gave him like a pack of cards. Bill went through them, and he'd say, "Oh, I love that. That's beautiful," or "Oh, that's fantastic." And then he stopped at one photograph. In fact, I have that very photograph here. Can I?
Yeah.
Can you?
Wow.
You see it?
You can see it. That's beautiful.
Okay. Well, that photograph, Bill stopped at that photograph, and he said, "Did you take that photo?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "That's the type of film I want to be in." And I said, "Well, that's the film I'm going to make." And he went, "Great, let's make a film." And that's how the first meeting went. And then it gets like lawyers and agents and producers. Right. But from that moment, though, to like now, he's kept in touch all the time, and he's so supportive of the work I do. I mean, it's just like incredible. Read the New Yorker.
I absolutely will. I will read that. I love the New Yorker anyway, but I will definitely read that article. And it's actually funny. While I'm watching you talk, I'm looking at the color of the paint on the wall behind you.
Oh, yeah.
On your wall. And I have to say that color reminds me of the film. Like that seems to be, the color palette that's kind of weaving through the film as well. So I almost feel like you could have shown him a picture of your room. And that could have been part of it too. You could have said this, had the vibe to it as well.
Are you familiar with Gregory Crutzen, the American photographer?
No, I'm not, but I will definitely look him up.
Can I give me? I've got. I'll show you something very quickly. In seconds. If I've got my notes. Oh yeah, here's my notes. Right. If I show you, can Can you see that?
Oh, wow. Yeah, yeah.
That's a photograph by Gregory Crutzen.
Oh, wow.
Think of the Scrabble scene you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, that looks so much like it. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and also, yeah, it's kind of slightly Hopper-esque, but
Yeah.
yeah. So, kind of, design's really important to me, and visual language is really, really important. But I don't work in a vacuum. I'm like an addict for images. So I'm always in like photo galleries or art galleries, tearing things out of magazines, and I keep a lot of scrapbooks. So it's kind of how I do things. I collect a lot of information and then enjoy looking at it. And then quite often when I'm reading the scene, because I've seen so many images, that when you read the scene, all those images that you've kind of absorbed, all of a sudden they start to pour out onto a page. So it's kind of, I find it a useful way of working.
Have you ever seen the work of the photographer Lindy by any chance?
No.
So I'll send you information about her after, but she mostly takes photographs, not of people, of foliage and topiaries, but it has a similar feel to it with gardens.
Oh, right.
So I think you find it interesting. I will send you that information. But given your art background, do you get involved in the film with things like the poster and the font for the title of the film? And or at a certain point, do you have to just step back and let other people to do those kind of things, or do you like being involved in all of those aspects of the film?
I love being involved in that side of it. In fact, I did all the graphics for the film.
Oh, okay. Oh, you did? Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. That's not because I'm some kind of crazy egotist, by the way. It's
Yeah.
nothing to do with that at all.
Right.
It's just I was free.
Okay.
At charge. No, it was. I had a kind of clear idea in Britain anyway of kind of what the posters should be, and and kind of what the graphics should be. So, and in general, I was left alone to do it. I mean, I think if I did it again, and another film, which hopefully I will do, then I'd probably work with a design studio.
Okay.
But I'm addicted to film posters. I'm a huge fan of Saul Bass.
Yeah, me too.
Huge fan of him. But also I've got like all sorts of books on East European cinema. I've got a collection of Czech cinema posters. I just I'm addicted to like film posters, and when I'm kind of working on a project, the first thing I do is I design the poster, not with a view to it being used.
Right.
Is I often design it because if I design it, what I'm doing is taking the entire story and making one image out of it. And if I can make one image out of 90 pages of a script, I understand the film I'm trying to make.
That's so interesting.
That's kind of how I do it. In fact, I don't know if I mean, I've got sketches of in fact, this is a complete. I didn't realise this was in here. But if you've got a few seconds,
Sure.
Right, there's one of the first sketches.
Oh, wow. Okay.
For the film.
Yeah.
There's another sketch.
That's beautiful.
To show you one more. No one liked them. There's
oh, I love it.
There's another one. So I think I did probably about 30 sketches for posters for the film. I'd say with a view to them being used, not for
right.
That wasn't an ego trip. It's just a way of me emptying my head onto a page. What's this film about? Is it about him? Is it about her? Is it about this or that? So it's a way of a doodle, and by doodling, kind of helps me just empty my head of ideas. So I do, I did a lot of posters, and it turns out in the end that one of them got used.
Right.
But equally, if someone else had produced a poster, that I liked, then that'd be fantastic as well. But I am like, when it comes to graphics, I am like a dog with a bone, though, I have to say.
Right.
But that's not because that's a bad thing. It's because I just love it and I just care.
It's very evident from learning all this about your background and how you approach the project, why the film makes you feel the way that you do, from the music to the graphics to the script, everything together kind of works really well together. And I really do think it's because you have such a hand and an interest in all of those different aspects of the film. It works. It just fuses really well together to give you that feel that I think that you were going for.
Well, I think one of the advantages is, like, I had a very good DOP who shot the film, and a really good production designer. And I think when you come from a background like me, which is a very visual background, it's very easy to develop a language that the DOP and the production designer can share with me. And once you know what that language is, life's so easy, because they know straight away, you'll like this, but he probably won't like that.
Right.
So it's kind of, and the thing is, film is a visual language. So, from my perspective, is visuals are really important. If you remove dialogue, can you still understand what's going on? Is the picture leading the story? And if it is, I think it's doing a great job. Sometimes you can't do that, but yeah, I'm very quite obsessed with picture.
I read somewhere that the first time you actually saw the whole film together was at the film's premiere. Is that right?
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah, I mean, at that point, I'd seen, I don't know, 150 versions of it. Phenomenal number. But we had to finish it quickly to meet the London Film Festival deadline.
Yeah.
So it was finished not long before that. But it was quite good to then see it, in a massive cinema in Leicester Square, with a sold-out audience. So that was quite strange, because up until then I'd seen it on a big screen to test it, but I'd never seen it in a cinema, not like that. Right,
with a full audience and hearing how they react, and that must have been incredible.
Yeah, and it's also when you hear an audience react to your film, that's really odd, because sometimes I'll think that's really funny, but no one laughs.
Right.
There's another scene where I think, well, that's not hilarious, but it's amusing. And then the cinema is in uproar with laughter. But what is important is that people laughed at the places I wanted them to laugh, and then were silent in the places where I wanted people to be silent. So that was a good indicator. By 90 minutes later, I was thinking, that kind of, it feels okay. Yeah, it feels okay.
How did you come up with the title for the film, more focused on, well, maybe not more focused on, but like alluding to the fact that he was a tailor, the sometimes that was for the buttons, the sometimes, always, never, as opposed to taking something that was more hinting towards the Scrabble aspect. Why did you make that choice?
Well, initially the film was called Triple Word Score.
Right.
Initially, and it was up until something like the second week of photography. It was still called that. I always wanted to change the title. I was always quite keen to change it, mainly because if it was called Triple Word Score, I'd be forever answering questions about the Scrabble film. Now, it is a film in which Scrabble plays a huge part, but it's not a film about Scrabble. Like, for instance, the film Spelling Bee, the documentary. We know what that's about, straight away. So I was always keen to move it. And then one day we were shooting the tailor scene, and I don't know if you remember the scene, but there's a black, Bill is stood with his grandson in front of a mirror, and behind Bill there's a black curtain which is closed. Well, that shop, which was built, which we filmed in, was very, very small. So the only place for me to hide with a monitor to view the scene was behind that curtain. Like the Wizard of Oz.
Right.
The Wizard of Oz.
Right.
That was me on that day. I was hidden behind the curtain, and I remember sitting there, and then action, then the scene played out,
Right.
and Bill went, sometimes, always, never. And as soon as he said that, and I was watching the monitor, and it made me tingle. I thought, that's what the film should be called.
Yeah.
It should be called Sometimes, Always, Never, because it's such a philosophical title.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant, because it's about a human being who sometimes feels one way, always feels another way, but never wants to feel
Yeah.
a certain way. And it is his kind of emotional psyche. But anyway, so I ruined the scene by opening the curtain and shouting cut. And someone said, is there a problem? And I
Right.
says, oh no, there's no problem. Quite the opposite.
Right.
Can we call the film Sometimes, Always, Never? So it was written down, and I
Right.
got back behind the curtain, and we carried
That's
on.
great.
So the title didn't change until we shot that scene.
Got it. No,
My
it's
fault.
no, that was a good problem. That was a good problem to come across. I think I think the title works great for the film, and
Yeah.
and like I said, it's just the way that everything fuses together. You could tell your artistic eye and your interest in all those aspects of it, and it really worked well. And
Thanks.
so I have to say, I'm so happy that we have at the arts, at the Gold Coast Arts Center and the Gold Coast International Film Festival, the opportunity to screen the film. We're looking forward to people seeing it, and then to hopefully logging in and listening to our talk today and learning more about some of your process.
Kind of, it's my it's the way I work, but I always remember at school the art room, and I want to spend my life never leaving that art room. So if I'm surrounded by pencils and crayons and paper and paint, I'll always be happy. That's kind
wonderful.
of my world.
Well, you're a perfect person for us to be interviewing from an art center, because we do all. Yeah. We in addition to all of our film programs, we're a nonprofit multi-art center, and we have a school for the arts and a black box theater and a free public art gallery, and so we're really in touch with all of the arts. So even more so than we realized when we chose your film, this is a perfect film for us, and we're so thrilled that you had the time to talk to us, and so we could learn more about you and the film. So
no, I mean, thanks for the invite, and I mean, it's really good that the film's being shown at an art centre. That's made me even happier now.
Well, good.
Because the arts are really, really important, and in Britain, the arts gets a big kicking all the time. Because there's always I don't know what it's like in America or other parts of the world.
Thing.
Yeah, but
same
people,
thing.
Something that really makes me angry at the moment is during this kind of lockdown period, America or wherever, Britain, and for some people it's really awful. And there was a survey of, kind of the things people do, occupations which are important, and quite rightly, doctors and nurses are very, very high on that list. Of course they should be, absolutely. But artists, musicians, or just the world of art was right at the bottom of the list. And yet, ironically, during this whole lockdown, what do? We watch films, we listen to music, we listen to plays. Arts and kind of who we are as human beings are so deeply connected. To see it as something that, that's something you do with a paintbrush is such an insult to an entire way in which a human being goes through life and things. The very first cave painting, whenever that was, and every 20 years they found an even older one, but someone felt the need to draw something, and whoever saw that drawing, the caveman or the cave woman or whoever saw it, knew what they were talking about.
Right.
There were no words, there was no dialogue. They must have gone, mammoth, or whatever the image was.
Right.
So our language starts pictorially. Our language has evolved into something very complicated, which is, how we talk. It's a linguistic thing, which is incredibly complicated. But originally, we communicated through images.
Right.
I think that gets ignored an awful lot, and it really angers me in a way that, like when young people it's important that young people create art, because those young people, when they embrace the world of art, they develop it as a better human being, because you
Absolutely.
understand the world around you. So anyway, sorry to go off that rant. It's just that I find art centres and the world of art's really important, and art centres need protecting very, very, very much.
Well, you are preaching to the choir, I will tell you. We fully agree with you, and that's why we continue to do the things that we do and help support making sure that the arts are available to people of all ages, and work with other arts organizations, because we agree with you. Without, and particularly during this time, I agree with you. You realize how, hopefully people are realizing how much they are relying on the arts to entertain, distract, educate, all the things that the arts are there for. I mean, aside from just watching movies, I have done so many art projects in my home with my kids. And that's one of the things that, helps connect us and connects them to the world around them. So we 100% agree with you. We are supportive of all of your efforts and your rants about the importance of the arts. And again, we thank you so much for your film and for taking the time to be with us. And we hope to be able to meet you in person to talk about films and music in the not too distant future.
Well, if that crops up and there's any chance of me coming to Long Island to talk about the film,
we would love it. We would welcome having you here. So let's definitely keep in touch.
Please do. I'll bring my scrapbook.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Carl.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for taking the time, and good luck with the art centre, and carry on. Carry on creating art. It's important.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye now.